let's add something. Or what we talked about in the book was not really appropriate, let's amend something. So I tell people this book was forged in the crucible of the counseling center, and we appreciate being able to offer it. We have copies available for you guys. It helps us to continue to do ministry. If you guys are able to pick up a copy for yourself and maybe even for a friend, we have some over there. So when we talked about this, we said, so we're about to change our plan because we had said, since we kind of had a little narrow window, that I was just going to do it, but are we going to do it together? Okay, got it. Okay, so Teresa's going to kind of remind me. Okay. Let me start with this. The average cost of a wedding, if you go to costofwedding.com, if you go to costofwedding.com, the average cost of a wedding in the United States of America last year was $26,444, not including the honeymoon. In Mississippi, the average cost of a wedding is a little over $16,000. Most couples, usually it's the bride, most couples spend 250 hours planning their wedding. Okay, now here's what we don't talk about. Most couples spend less than 2 hours and less than $100 planning their marriage. So it's no reason we have big weddings and bad marriages. That's where we are. Have you ever thought about how it takes more training to get a driver's license than a marriage license? There's no training required. So I'm going to give you my little topic, and I got a subtopic. Okay, I hope I can make this make sense. What I want to talk to you guys tonight about is marriage evangelism. Marriage evangelism. And our subtopic is, if you want marriage to thrive, you must be committed to teaching people how to drive. If you want marriage, matter of fact, I've never been one of those guys to repeat after me, but I'm going to try. This will be my first time trying this live, actually. Okay, let's try this. If you want marriage to thrive, you must be committed to teaching people how to drive. We love to take vacations as a family. We have actually driven to Orlando, San Antonio, Texas, Denver twice. We've driven to Toronto, Canada. With Teresa, myself, and the 4 kids. One of our favorite trips, incidentally, we didn't drive on this particular trip to Colorado, but years and years ago, we took a trip to Colorado, we flew to Denver, rented a vehicle, and drove to Dillon, and we spent 9 days in the mountains of Dillon, Colorado. During those 9 days, we drove to Breckenridge, Vail, Aspen, Colorado Springs. We drove all over. One of the more fascinating drives we took was a drive up Pikes Peak. Has anybody done that? You've done it? Amazing. Pikes Peak is 14,000 feet above sea level. It's a 19-mile highway that you drive up. It's only open certain times of the year. The round trip takes about 2 to 3 hours, not including stops for photos. There are no fuel stations. On the way down, there's a mandatory stop. You remember this? Because the descent is so steep, there's a place where you're required to pull over so they can check your brakes. Because most people are not comfortable making that huge descent, they ride their brakes, and the brakes overheat and fail. So let me explain it like this. We took a good family friend with us on this trip, and on the way down, she spent the whole descent on the floor of the van crying and praying, alternating. Oh, Jesus, ooh, Jesus, crying and praying. And it's a really difficult descent. Now, imagine you and your spouse are sitting at the top of the mountain, strapped in your seat. In the back, you got your 2 little children. They're strapped in the seat. And you're about to start down the mountain. But as you look down, you see all the wrecked cars / marriages. You see the SUV over there that's crumpled up. You see the little Ford Fusion hybrid that's, didn't quite make it. You see the minivan that is total. That's the state of marriage in America right now. So, some of the questions you guys should be asking, what are we going to do to make sure we don't wreck? Now, for tonight, we're going to focus on one point. In the book, we actually mentioned there are 3 things. Teach people how to drive, which is what we're going to focus on tonight. Construct some guardrails, and have compassion on those people who've wrecked. But tonight, our focus is, if you want to keep marriage alive, or if you want to make marriage thrive, I went back and forth on that, you've got to teach people how to drive. Okay, how did we start? Whenever we stand up here, you guys don't know us, those are the marriage experts, and everything works good in their marriage. This is probably the first time that we've spoken and we didn't get into an argument on the way to speak in a long time. Why does it happen? Because Satan intentionally tries to attack what we're doing, right? So let me tell you a little bit about our story. We married May 6, 1985. I had just finished the previous semester at Delta State, got a job, actually started grad school, but got a job, moved to Memphis, went to work. Teresa's still finishing up her final year at Mississippi University for Women. One day, Teresa comes to Memphis. I've got my little 1-bedroom apartment up there. We head down to the Justice of the Peace. We get married. We move into a 1-bedroom apartment. Well, actually, Teresa goes back to finish school. But this is when I first knew this marriage thing was kind of tricky, because I had been, we didn't have a wedding, right? So all I had was the furniture from college. So I didn't have a bed, because I didn't want to take the dorm bed because it didn't belong to me, right? So we didn't have a bed. I would sleep on the floor. This is the first time I realized this thing was getting tricky. So we just got married, and she said, "What about our bed?" Well, what about our bed? I didn't sleep on the floor. I mean, is that important right now? We're just getting started. Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. So that's when I realized, I see how this works. This men and women things will be a little different. I mean, now I'm married. I'm not like you guys coming to these things. I'm clueless, right? We're basically married right out of college and clueless. But, so we get married May 6th, the 2 of us. I got my little first job out of college making $23,000 a year. Oh, wait a minute. In September, because we didn't do things right, in September, we got 2 more. So 2 plus 2 is now 4. We got twins. So we're married, clueless, got a family, living in Memphis. We don't know anybody there. We're not from Memphis. And that's how we got started. So the fact that we're standing here, and the fact that God, God's funny to me often. The fact that He uses us to do this is actually amazing to me. I mean, it's actually, did you mention grace earlier?
Yeah, sure did.
Okay, it's not mercy. Okay, let me just tell you real quick. Y'all heard this. Justice, you get what you deserve. Mercy, you don't get what you deserve. Grace, you get what you don't deserve. Does that make sense to everybody? That's kind of where we are. It's God's grace. That little book that we wrote that took us 5 years, within 48 hours, that was the most downloaded book in 5 countries. USA, Canada, Japan, Australia, Germany, I believe. But it's just amazing. And again, it's in the book. It's not just a book. There's a resource. I encourage you guys to look up our podcast. Okay, thank you. I knew there's always in the room somebody that's like that time person, so I knew that person would say, "I'll do it." Okay, I got you. That's funny. In the 10 minutes I got left, what do I want to do next? Let me think. All right. So you know a little bit about our story. Here's what we're going to talk about in a little bit of time we got left. Is we want to invite you guys to join in the fight with us. Okay? So how are we going to do this? Now this is key. Hey, we want to teach people how to drive. How are we going to do it? Okay, let's see what the Word of God has to say about it real quickly. And I don't have time to go into detail of the scripture, but just follow this out that I think is really going to be easy to remember. If you want to teach people how to drive, you've got to teach them to Romans 12:2 and Philippians 2:5. And this is so important. Matter of fact, we devoted a whole chapter to this. We call the chapter Lose Your Mind, Love Your Spouse. Some people say being married to this person drove me out of my mind. Well, what we suggest is why don't you go out of your mind first, then get married. So when you look at Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then when you look at Philippians 2:5, let this mind be in you, which is also in Christ Jesus. And if we had time to talk about the first 11 chapters of Romans, was more about theology. This chapter 12 is more about your walkology. If we had time, we talk about how Paul wrote to the church at Philippi, which by all accounts was a very successful church, but there was a disagreement to split the church. And so he writes to talk about how can the church become unified. And so now in marriage, you've got to change your mind. So when we talk about marriage evangelism, when somebody comes to the counseling center, I don't know if we were doing this all the time or we talked about it, but basically now, the first question is, where's your relationship with Christ? Because this ain't going to work unless you make this marriage thing a threesome. Yeah. You know, so unless it's me, you, Christ, 1 + 1 + 1 = 1, yeah, this thing is not going to work. So that's what we talk about. I mean, this is really, okay, I thought we were going to talk about marriage. We are, but this thing is all about Jesus. As a matter of fact, y'all remember when Daniel LaRusso went to Mr. Miyagi and wanted to learn karate? Y'all with me? I ain't talking about the Will Smith sons. What's his son's name? Jada. I ain't talking about the Jada version. I'm talking about back in Ralph and Pat Morita, right? And he wanted to learn karate. Y'all remember what Mr. Miyagi told him to do? Wash and wax my car. And so Ralph was like, Daniel was like, I want to learn karate. Okay, here's what I'm doing. We want to learn about marriage. Yeah, I'm going to get to that in just a second. But right now, you need to learn wax on, wax off. And then you remember when he took Daniel out, he said, what's he got to do with karate? And he threw that little ring-tan at him, and Mr. Miyagi said, wax on. Y'all remember this? Then he threw a little kick at him, he said, wax off. So to make this stuff work, the first thing you got to do, Jesus on, you off. Now, hey guys, I'm just telling y'all, this is the only way it's going to work. Jesus on, you off. I don't need training to be selfish. I came like that. Right? Okay, so think about this. You're going to put two sinful creatures together in close proximity to themselves? And you expect this to work by yourself? It's not going to work. Okay, Jim, I know a lot of non-Christians that are still married. Yeah, but they're not being married like God intended. They may be surviving marriage. We want to thrive in marriage. And then we want to move past, what's the time?
You have 14.5.
Okay. We want to move past surviving to thriving. Does that make sense, everybody? So, what we want you guys to do is join in the fight. And we want you guys, okay, I know y'all don't do this here at Common Ground, but a lot of churches we talk to, you've got the Sunday person, and then the Saturday, what's next? Monday through Saturday person, right? But guys, we need people, back to Romans 12:2, to walk this thing. Not just your conversation, but your conduct. Not just your belief, but your behavior. I mean, we need people to step up. I don't understand why Christians are so silent about their faith. I mean, well, actually, I do understand. There are a number of reasons. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to impose my beliefs on somebody else. I never got that. I mean, your job ain't to make somebody believe. Your job is just tell the story. And so that's where we are. I know we're talking about marriage, but we got to talk about this first thing first, to make this thing work. So what we're looking for people who want to be marriage champions. Now, I know everybody's personality is different, and certainly everybody isn't as comfortable as I am. I'm really sensitive about this, because I really believe in it, So I'm the kind of guy, Teresa and I were at the Y, it's been a few years ago now, and a good friend of mine came up and said, well, when I say good friend, a guy I don't know, yeah, he's like never been over our house, but we've done some business together, whatever. He came up and said, and this is what I'm talking about, guys, we've got to dispel all the myths and stereotypes. So he came up and said, I see you got the boss with you. Teresa's not my boss. Now, I'm going to look for the why, right? This is not my boss. I mean, I lead the family. Now, I know, Jim, don't you be overly sensitive, you're at the why. But I'm just saying, guys, all these little stereotypes that we associate with about marriage, you know, most people are afraid to get married. People get married later and later. And then you people making little jokes about, I mean, marriage is miserable. I was having a lot of sex till I got married. I mean, and everybody laughs because that's not funny to me. But, I mean, it's just little stuff like that, that to be in the fight, not just, see, it's easy to be in the fight in here with all of us. But we're talking about taking the fight to the world, right? We're talking about being salt and light to a dying world. Now, again, I know we're talking about marriage. So, what are a few quick things that you guys can do in terms of a marriage ministry? Many of the things that you've already done. I heard you guys mention the 5 love languages. I love that book. One of the things we talk about is forming a library. Probably in our house, the second biggest library we have, I didn't prompt you for this question. What do you think it is? The second biggest. I thought about it. I think it's cookbooks. I think it's cookbooks. But our first biggest is books on marriage and family. The 5 love languages. I saw in the program, His Needs, Her Leads, Dr. Willard Hardy. I love that book. The love thing, love and respect. You summed up something earlier about marriage in terms of the love languages. We talk about, we don't have time to go into it right now, but the purposes of marriage, 3 purposes: procreation, sanctification, and divine illustration. So that whole thing behind sanctification is what you just said. Teresa's love language, and this is the case in most marriages because you're talking about opposites, Teresa's love language is the thing I hate doing the most. Her primary love language is acts of service. I don't like to do the dishes. Now, I do it because it means a lot to her, but see how this stuff works? I mean, so my primary love language is physical touch. Now, her primary love language was physical touch as well. That would make things really easy, right? But then again, then the whole idea of marriage being about sanctifying us, making us more and more like Jesus, right? Matter of fact, I know you guys have heard this, the whole idea about salvation. You got justification. Jim, I thought you were talking about marriage. I just hope they interrupted me. I'm getting there. You got justification. I have been saved from the penalty of sin, right? I deserve to go to hell. Got sanctification. I am being saved from the power of sin. Every day I'm getting a little bit more and more like Jesus. And then the day I'm waiting on, glorification, I will be saved from the very presence of sin. That's where we're going. So just real quick, some practical things. Premarital counseling. At our church, the pastor won't marry you unless you're going through premarital counseling. Marriage ministry, conferences that you guys talked about, making resources available, making, whenever possible, professional help accessible and affordable. You know, that's a good thing to do. There's a whole list of things, but you guys are taking a great, great first step. So, I know I'm out of time. I know I'm out of time. Did we want to give some time for some questions? Or? Yes. Okay, so.
We'll extend the time. Go ahead.
So, in order to make marriage thrive, to keep marriage alive, we've got to be willing to teach people to drive. We're talking about marriage evangelism. In order to teach people to drive, we've got to teach them the Romans 12:2 and Philippians 2:5. Is this making sense? So we want to be the example, and then we want to not only just, I think it was St. Francis of Assisi who said, preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. So I understand what St. Francis is saying, and I agree with that. But on occasion, after you've lived out the gospel, you want to share with people, let me tell you about something. You know, don't be so closed with the information, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is the favorite part for me because I like interacting with the audience and hear what you guys are thinking. And it's not particularly hot in here, I just perspire a lot. I got that bike ride in at the last minute, which my wife told me not to do it. But anyway. So, questions about marriage ministry, and Teresa's going to come help me answer those. Any questions that we can answer for you guys? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Can you guys hear?
No.
and keep it in the theme that, you know, as far as like the marriage, you want to teach them how to drive. So what would be your examples of like the body shop or the mechanic shop?
I like that. I like that analogy. This thing, the same thing. So, some of the things we mentioned, you know, this ministry, professional counselors. Because the question you heard, what would be examples of body shops when people do wreck? Do you have anything particular you want to say, Teresa? Okay. So, whether it's making something available at the church, whether it's you seeking outside help, whether it's you doing the premarital counseling in preparation for marriage, don't try to suffer this out alone. I mean, I know a lot of people work on their own cars, you know, but sometimes you need, in this issue, you need professional help. I mean, there are a lot of issues, and we've seen everything. Gambling addiction, pornography addictions, drug addictions, same-sex attractions, adultery, misguided moms, dropout dads. Okay, women who, why won't my husband talk? Husbands, why don't we have enough sex? And I'm being stereotypical. Women, why can't my husband understand that affection and sex are not the same thing? Why don't we communicate more? I mean, a lot of this, in addition to the resources and some of it that you guys are already using, are things that it helps. Here's to me, about 2 years into our marriage, we went to a marriage conference that Dennis Rainey did. There's probably 800 people there. And I know this is going to sound stupid, but here's what was plain to me sitting at that marriage conference, and I'm going to explain it. My wife is not crazy, because I thought she was. Does that make sense to anybody? I mean, literally, then I understood that, okay, here's a great example. Now, I know I didn't have a training y'all had, so y'all stay with me. Here's a great example. Why does an argument in the morning, or let's say on Monday, let's say I'm leaving town, why does that affect sex on Wednesday? I didn't get that. Hey, Teresa, you look like you're upset about something. You know what's wrong? I don't know what you're talking about. You remember what happened Monday? No, I don't remember Monday. But at the conference, when I heard, Jim, men and women are different, sex for women is not so much as physical as emotional, I was like, wow, I'm sorry. I thought you were crazy. But, you know, so I mean, the thing about information is it helps us understand how this works a little bit better. Yes, sir.
So, Jim, tell what Teresa does.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let her tell.
Okay. I'm not the speaker on, I do a little speaking and I'm getting better at that, but I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm a graduate of RTS, Reformed Theological Seminary in Marriage and Family, and I also I do the private practice in the evenings. I'm trying to see, we're over our couples ministry at our church. But my main thing is in the counseling room. I feel that's where God, the Spirit leads me to minister to couples. Now, like Jim said, that's not maybe my first question. I do engage my clients first and try to get to know them a little bit. But then at the end of that first session, I do say, you've come to a Christian counselor, now talk to me about your faith. And there starts the conversation about faith and what you see. And what did you think marriage was going to be about? You know, and find out that. What's your expectations in marriage? You know, what did you see from your family? So we go really deep into that part. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Teresa, would you share what